Hey guys, what is up? Welcome into the Big Friday Kickoff Podcast. I'm Emily Cochran. He's Robert Restagno. And this week we have a very special edition of the show. This is something that Robert has been working extremely hard on. It's our all-region teams.
Yep.
We get to unveil them tonight here on the podcast. This is the first place you're going to get to hear about it. It'll also be posted online as well. Robert's been working on some awesome graphics, so you can all get to see that there. But this is a process that he's been working on basically throughout the whole season. He's had a running list, a lot of players to have to choose from, a little over 2,800 players across Region 1. That's according to the rosters. That's according to the numbers we're given, so we can only go based on that. But based on our all-region teams, we're going to be highlighting 360 kids. I can't even begin to tell y'all how hard that is to narrow down, especially for Robert. He has been bugging me relentlessly over the last couple of months, in particular because I'm the one that has to reach out to coaches and get the stats and bug them constantly, texting them all hours of the day. And so coaches, I apologize if I've been bugging you. It is because Robert has been bugging me. But we need the information so that way we can, have the most up-to-date stats to kind of narrow this down. Like I said, Robert has been working so hard on this. And, I'm going to kind of let him steer this ship. Today, we're going to be breaking down our 5A through 7A teams, and then we've also got our all-freshman first and second teams. So, Robert, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you kind of kick this thing off. First things first, I want you to talk about the process of selecting these players, because you've got spreadsheets on that computer of yours, and you've been looking over it constantly. So I want to know about the process and how you went about selecting these players.
Yeah, so it really is just going through every team and trying to pick just the players that are standing out for everyone's roster. Like, no limit on the selections. Some teams like your Williamsons and your Jacksons and your St. Michael's have 16 to 18 players, that could qualify for something like this. Some schools, it was harder to find guys, and especially when you got down to sort of the 1A through 3A, you had to do a lot of work, and a lot of those coaches were the ones that we reached out to. We didn't reach out to every coach because a lot of coaches make their stuff available.
Which makes our job 10 times easier.
Yes, so please, if you can, always make your stuff available. And we tried not to take nominations from coaches, right? Because this was something that I kind of wanted to make our own, I didn't want to just go off the nominations that everybody gets this time of year for all state, all region. Lagniappe does an all coastal team, or I'm sorry, AL.com does an all coastal team. Lagniappe does their all area team. But, I didn't see many places. Actually, I didn't see any place that was doing all 54 teams in Region 1, and one of the goals of this is to try and have every single team represented. And that's easier said than done sometimes, because you're having to, like I said, go through some teams that, no shots at this team. But, you take someone like Murphy, for example, where there just wasn't a ton of production from that team as a whole throughout the season. So where do you find players for them? So found different ways, especially with this all freshman team, to kind of be able to give some love to some of the teams that we just didn't have a lot of players to pick from for the most part. It started out, I break it down by position. I've got one page for offense, one page for defense. I do quarterback, running back, receiver, and this year I decided to do tight end, and also offensive line, and then defense, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, DB, however you want to put it. And then just kind of an athletes page where it was guys that kind of played multiple positions or were productive across several different places. And then we had a couple special team spots, and the special teams list was short because I think that the special teams players around here, especially the kickers and punters, you kind of know who they are. Mm-hmm. So those were a lot easier to kind of narrow down, per region to make the roster. I think probably one of the hardest parts of this is, one, kind of picking your quarterbacks, because there are a ton of good quarterbacks in this area. And, there are a couple regions, two of them we'll talk about today, 5A and 7A, where I had a real hard time picking the quarterback for those teams, and it flip-flopped multiple times. And then also like trying to fit players into certain positions. You know, there's a lot of crossover between like defensive linemen, pass rushers, and linebackers. So like, where do you put someone like Jabarius Guerra, for example, who is like a linebacker edge player? So like, it kind of can bleed over into defensive line. So like, some of that I was a little loose with. Some of that it was just like, I want these 8 defensive guys on the defensive line and linebacker line. So, yeah, and then it's kind of fun picking your skill position players because, you know, you get to look at all these receivers and running backs that we have in our area that are super talented. And then the offensive line, which is something that you don't have a ton of hard numbers on. You know, some teams keep track of their pancake blocks, some teams don't. That actually requires like going back and like watching some game tape, you know,
Yeah.
and going back and watching games and seeing who's doing what. And then, you know, we keep track of some of the recruiting guys in our area that highlight a lot of the talented players that are down here. And I lean on them a lot for offensive linemen because that's just a position that I'm not super familiar with. But, you know, I know there are a lot of talented, you know, people who work in scouting and recruiting in our area that know that position very well. I lean on them a lot for that kind of stuff.
I want to give them some love too.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
big guys up front.
Yeah.
And Larry with QB Country has always been such
big one, yeah.
huge help. I mean, what he does is just incredible in this area and across the state of Alabama. But I know, like, we want to give these O linemen and these positions you're not talking about as much. We want to give them more love. But like you said, like, trying to find the stats and that information readily available, it's very hard because teams and coaches, they just don't keep it.
Right.
And then you also have stats and max preps that could be wrong.
Yeah.
So that's something when you're going through this process, I know that you've really had to battle with.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think I'm pretty happy with where we've ended up. I've got a full breakdown here that I can pull up quickly.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Y'all buckle up.
Yeah. So let's see.
If y'all saw the Excel spreadsheets that he has on his computer and like the things he's sending me through email, text, whatever, I've never seen anything like it in my life. Sometimes it's kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around it, but it just goes to show the effort and the time that you really have put into this to make sure that these kids are recognized.
Yeah, so on our long list that was 496 players that I kind of basically pulled the final nominations from.
I wish I could whistle, because I would right now.
We had 84 from 7A, 82 from 6A, 79 from 5A, 74 from 4A, 68 from 3A, 51 from 2A, 58 from 1A. Now, I will just note this. The one team in Region 1, just because I don't think I don't think we have a very good contact for was JF Shields down in 1A. They're the one team that does not have a represented player on any of these teams. And, you know, when I looked up their official roster, I think it listed 11 players, which I don't...
That's probably not accurate.
Yeah, so it was tough finding stuff on them. So they are, I will note, just the only team in 1A that does, or in Region 1 that does not have anybody on this list. The region teams each feature 31 players, so 217 total made an all-region team. We picked 30 freshmen, and then I made a short list of 113 honorable mention players. But to be honest with you, that honorable mention list really could have just been anyone from the 496. Like that list was just... That list was very hard to dwindle down because once you get your region team set, you kind of just want to put everyone you've got kind of on the honorable mention list. But then you're talking about, you know, almost 500 players that you're gonna be putting out there. So
a very difficult process,
yeah,
to say the least. A lot of sleepless nights for you.
Yeah, and a lot of like not leaving it alone, and then I'll be happy with it, and then I'll look at it the next day and be like, I don't know, am I being too cute here? You know, because you want to try and put your own kind of stamp on something like this and make it unique in its own way and not totally look like the all-state teams and the other kind of teams that other media outlets
yeah.
put together in our area. But you also don't want to be stupid, you know? I mean, you want to have it make sense to a certain degree. So
you want to think outside the box, but you don't want to invent a new box.
Yeah, exactly. That isn't there. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love doing this. We did a version of this last year. I think this one's a little cleaner and a little more concise, despite the amount of players that are noted on here. But yeah, I think this turned out pretty well. So I'm kind of excited to just go ahead and put it out there.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Like I said, we're going to be covering 5A through 7A, and then our all freshman first and second teams. So, Robert, where do you want to start? You want to start with our all freshman teams?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, these graphics look incredible. I cannot wait for y'all to see them. Robert has worked extremely hard on the logos and the layout and just everything. He's been very meticulous about it. Robert is very detail oriented. So yeah, kind of break down this all freshman first team for me.
So for the all freshman first team, and this wasn't position based. We just picked, or I had 30 freshmen, and I just basically split them into two teams. This wasn't, 3 running backs, 3 receivers. It wasn't anything like that. This was just 15 and 15, regardless of position. So for the first team, I'll just run through the first column. Tucker Wade with Orange Beach, starting quarterback this year for the Makos.
Very talented.
Yep, very talented. Ty Sellers for St. Paul's, kind of the sort of 1-2 punch with Anthony Frazier there at running back. Lamarian Arnold at Escambia County rushed for, I believe, almost 500 yards for Escambia County. Pull my list up here. Yeah, no, almost 600 yards. I'm sorry, 10 touchdowns. Really good freshman year from him. Cameron Roberts for St. Luke's. He was another guy that kind of ran the ball, caught the ball, did a lot for that St. Luke's team that, kind of got a little depleted in the offseason from transfers and whatnot. I believe he was their leading rusher on the season. And then Martez Owens, who is another guy for Clark County. Clark County, the region champ down there in 2A.
Yep.
Over 470 yards, 7 touchdowns for him. So, those 5 were kind of the big, 5 of the big skill guys. And that was the other thing with this freshman team is that there's only one 7A player on these freshman teams because, freshmen just don't play at that high level. A lot of these guys are in 4A, 3A, 2A, that kind of area, 5A, a decent amount. So, I'll just keep moving along here. Anthony Sturgis for Alma Bryant. Alma Bryant, really, really good rushing team this year. I mean, between him and Jaden James, who we'll talk about here in a minute, he was over 500 yards as a freshman running the ball in 7A, which is really hard to do. So he totally deserved to be on this list. Aaron Ward for Cottage Hill. He was kind of just one of their top targets all year. He had over 50 catches as a freshman, and was a real key part of that offense being as good as it was. Aiden Tolbert down in Leroy, also over 50 catches as a freshman for kind of one of the more dominant 1A teams this year.
A name we've said a lot on Big Friday Kickoff for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And one side note about these freshman teams, if you're on the freshman team, I made a rule that you could not be on the all-region teams.
Okay.
So that took some last-minute moving around when I decided to do this because there were guys that are on these all-freshman teams that were on the all-region teams.
What made you decide to make that change?
One, create a little bit more room for other guys on those all-region teams, and 2, I thought we had so many good freshmen this year that it was worth making it their own category. Another guy right here that we can talk about, Jaden Collins for Chickasaw, starting quarterback, threw for over 1,700 yards, ran for over 700 yards, had 26 total touchdowns, 2 defensive touchdowns, 21 tackles. I mean, just a do-it-all kind of guy for Chickasaw, who was a playoff team in 2A, you know, regardless of the strength of that region or what have you. On the defensive side, Captain Mutterland Jr.
Love the name.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the name.
Son of former NFL player Captain Mutterland. He was, you know, kind of one of the key pieces in that secondary for Williamson all year. Almost 60 tackles, 2 picks, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He was a really productive player for them.
And to stand out on a defense like that, that's
right.
One of the strongest defenses in the state across all classifications. I mean, to be someone that stands out on a defense like that, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the kind of athletes I wanted to highlight, Theo Jackson at Faith. You know, he ran for over 500 yards, had almost 200 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. He was kind of the focal point of that Faith Academy offense, and I think that they're really young and they've got some good pieces to build around. So, and he is certainly one of them. So I wanted to give him some love there. Two Flomaton Hurricanes here. Mason Helton on defense. He was kind of one of their top tacklers for, you know, a playoff team in 3A. You know, he had 73 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 8 sacks. Really, really productive defensive lineman for them. And then their running back receiver, TJ Hall, almost 400 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, also played defense at 35 tackles. A really productive two-way player for them. Over there in Flomaton. And then rounding out this first list, 2 starting offensive linemen for McIntosh, Lance Barnes and Teddy Walker. These guys are really, really big players compared to some of the 1A guys that they went against. I went back and watched some tape on them, and they were, you know, really, really productive offensive linemen. Both start on the left side of that line, which is kind of the most important side of the line. You know, one was a guard, one was a tackle. So, you know, and that was a really good offense, and they, you know, the offensive line had to be a big part of it. So, wanted to give them some love as well. So, tried to sprinkle in some offensive linemen, you know, in places where I can.
So that was our all-freshman first team.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead and move on to our all-freshman second team. Still a lot of talented guys on this list as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Starting off at the top here, Keston Betts, a linebacker for Monroe County, had over 80 tackles this year. Really, really solid young player there for Monroe County. Bryson George, starting offensive lineman for LaFleur, who was a borderline playoff team this year. He's going to be a really strong player down the road. Kenton Hunt, for Murphy, and Roman Clark for Alberta. These are 2 guys that, you know, despite tough seasons from their teams, I think we're both kind of bright spots for both those programs. You know, Roman Clark, he played center a lot for Alberta this year. Big kid, got a lot of good experience playing on the offensive line this year for Alberta. And then Kenton Hunt, he was like a DB receiver. Again, one of the few bright spots for that Murphy team. He's going to be a good player one day.
Citronelle.
Yeah, so moving on down, Citronelle, Javaris Coleman, he kind of one of those guys who would kind of come in and do a little bit of everything. He had 389 all-purpose yards. They obviously had Camarcus Howard, who was kind of their stud sort of running back, quarterback, you know, kind of do-it-all kind of guy, and he was the one that would come in and spell him in stages and did a really, really good job at it. A familiar name a little bit, Kellen Yamane. He played linebacker for Bayside this year.
Related to Brendan Yamane.
Yeah, I believe it's his brother. Had over 30 tackles for the Admirals. Really just solid contributor there on the defensive side of the ball. Couple more Escambia County guys, Javen Brown and Brian Knott, 2 really productive defensive linemen for them. That, you know, Escambia County, they struggled this year, but I think when you look at their roster across the board, they have a lot of talented guys to kind of look forward to in the future. Brian Knott over 35 tackles, over 7 tackles for loss. Javen Brown, 44 tackles, 4.5 sacks. Those were 2 big guys up front for them that really got the job done. Down here, moving back up to Williamson, Mario Williams. He was a pretty productive tackler. I don't think he started on this defense, but he certainly came in and contributed. Had over 30 tackles for a really dominant defense. So really wanted to give him some love. Parker Davis over there in St. Paul's. I think you know a little bit about him.
Do love Parker.
Yes, he solid contributor for a pretty good offense. Over 200 receiving yards, had 5 touchdowns on the year, which he only had 14 catches, but when 5 of them are touchdowns, that's almost a third of your catches.
I'd say that's a pretty good percentage.
It's a pretty good percentage, right? And then moving to the kind of final 5 guys on this list, Taylon Bumpers and Blake Phillips for LaFleur. These were 2 of their better defenders, both freshmen. Bumpers played defensive back. Blake Phillips was more of a linebacker, kind of up front guy. Really, really productive guys for the Rattlers. Reed Scrametta for Bayside, a talented offensive lineman who was really solid for them for most of the year. I think he had over 20 pancake blocks.
Dang.
For a really good front line that Bayside had, so he got a shout out here on this list. And then moving on down back to McIntosh, Kyler Dixon. He had over 100 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 18 tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 pass deflections. Kind of played both sides of the ball like a lot of guys in some of those lower level teams do. 1A, 2A, 3A. You get a lot of 2A guys down there. And then rounding out the list for Mobile Christian, LaDouglas Jones. This was a guy that they nominated for the all-region teams. 36 tackles, 3 interceptions, also had 174 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Again, one of these guys that's playing both sides of the ball and is really productive for what ended up being a really good playoff team. So those are your all freshman teams.
I think it just kind of goes to show that all this really good young freshman talent, these are going to be names that we're going to be keeping an eye on. We're lucky we get to keep watching them for the next 3 years. And to be even mentioned on this list just goes to show they're going to get better and better as time goes on.
Yeah.
So these are just the young guys that are just breaking in that you're really going to have to keep an eye on next year.
Yeah, no doubt. So
do we want to move on to, do you want to start in 5A or would you like to start in 7A?
That's totally up to you. I mean, we can go from the top if you'd like, or we can start at 5. However you want to do it. You tell me.
I think we should start in 7A. If
Okay.
it were me. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right, yeah. Let's start in 7A with our all-region offense.
All right, so this was one that this was a quarterback spot that I went back and forth on quite a bit. So I ended up going with Christian Seeger here.
I'm not mad about it.
No, I think ultimately he had the best numbers out of sort of the quarterbacks here in this region, and
He definitely was the spark that Daphne offense needed this year. He came in from Spanish 4 and just was a really big difference maker. Came in, just adjusted so quickly. Kenny King speaks extremely highly of Christian Seeger, so I like this decision. I'm behind you on this one.
Yeah, so he was the one I went with over some very. The quarterbacks in this region, whether it's Tate Graham, Trey Gardner, Jeremy Manhennick, Cub Jones, there were a lot of good quarterbacks in this region to kind of look at, but I thought Christian Seeger, he was one I flipped back and forth on quite a bit, but I think I landed on the right one. Our 3 running backs here, Cam Smith for MGM, Jaden James for Allen Bryant, and Speedy Wheeler for Baker.
Wheeler.
I thought that these were kind of, at least for me, the 3 no-brainer picks. In particular, when you look at Cam Smith and Speedy Wheeler, I think those guys were sort of the engines of those offenses.
I would say so. I mean, these are names like when you're talking about these teams and you're talking about their highlights on offense. Like this is the name that you're saying each week. I mean, they're putting out the most production. So, I mean, yeah, definitely. Speedy's one of my favorites. Also, just a really good kid. I've really enjoyed watching him during his time at Baker.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think kind of maybe one of the more surprising guys that people wouldn't have thought of is Jaden James here for Alma Bryant. But this is a kid who had over 1,100 total yards of offense, rushed for over 1,000, and not many players do that, especially at the 7A level.
No.
So, this was a good spot to give Alma Bryant, a little bit of love here because he had a great season for them. Moving over to kind of receiver tight end, we had Joshua Jones for Baker, Katori Marion for Baker, and then LeBraylon Williams for Daphne, and at tight end, DJ Broughton for MGM, who I think if you look at all these guys, I think all these guys have kind of earned awards in this offseason. I think these are all names that we all recognize and know, and they've got the numbers to back it up. So to me, these guys were fairly easy to pick here.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I'm a big fan of Katori Marion. I know whenever the former head coach was here, Juan Johnson.
Yes.
And when I presented Katori with our Player of the Week, he won it 1 week last season, and I was just talking to Coach about him, and he was like, it's not just me that loves Katori. My wife also loves Katori.
Sure.
Like, Katori was one of her favorite players, and we know that Juan Johnson is at James Clemens now, but for just a kid like that to make an impact in just the 1 year that Coach was here and to make an impact on his wife, like he's just a really good kid. So I know it comes down to stats and numbers, but it's cool to see these kids that we've watched grow over this time, not just as develop as players, but as develop as young men. So
yeah,
I'm happy for them to get the love here.
Yeah, no doubt. And to kind of round out the offense, our 5 offensive linemen here. This one also, to me, I wanted to mix it up as best I could, but to me, there were 4 names that had to be on here: C.J. Maxwell and JaVale Fredericks for Daphne, Parks Glaze and Wesley Sandifor for Fairhope. Those are 4 of the most talented linemen in this region. And to round them out, I went with Eric Griffin for MGM, who rated the highest for MGM and their offensive linemen, according to what head coach Zach Golson sent us.
Yeah, as far as Daphne and their O-line goes, I mean, they had one of the largest O-lines across 7A, maybe across Region 1. Like,
yes.
I think the average height for their O-lineman was like 6'5".
Yep.
I mean, the huge guys. Anytime, like, when I was interviewing JaVale Fredericks at signing day, because he's going to play at Louisiana Lafayette. Obviously, got to watch them. Him and his family got to watch them play in the 68 Ventures Bowl. That guy, that is a big boy.
Yes.
Like he's definitely been eating good and going to be an absolute weapon at the next level on the O line. So yeah, I definitely am not shocked to see 2 Daphne names on here whatsoever. So yeah, good choices.
And that's the other thing. I mean, Daphne had other guys to pick from too. That was the other thing, was how do you make this not all
a Daphne O-line group?
A Daphne O-line group,
yeah, because they got some dudes on that O-line.
They
that's
really
for
do.
sure.
They really do. So I think I'm ultimately happy where we landed at here. I guess moving over to the defense here are 4 D linemen: Caleb Morris for MGM, Malik Franklin for Daphne,
Good choice.
Will Cooper for Fairhope, and Ronald Reed for Baker. This group I was kind of not dead set on from the beginning, but I felt pretty good about it. Caden Moore for Baker was another one that I thought about swapping in there for Reed. But for the most part, I was pretty happy with this group of guys right here. At linebacker, giving Robertsdale a little love here, Derek Thompson, one of the top tacklers in 7A in terms of production, had almost 100 tackles on the season. I believe he put up similar numbers last year. really strong linebacker for the Golden Bears. Theodore Roberts for Baker, another just really, really productive tackler for the Hornets. Over 100 tackles on the year as well. And then Devin Petway for MGM, kind of
A name we talk about a lot.
one of the leaders of that defense. One of the best defenses in 7A. It was going to be almost impossible to leave him off this list. And then Dagan Jones for Fairhope, who was one of the top tacklers, 95 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 7 sacks for the Pirates. He was kind of one of the leaders of that defense, along with Gus Faulkner, who made our secondary list. That defense had some guys on it that made a lot of plays. Gus Faulkner, 121 tackles kind of from the safety spot is huge. 9 tackles for loss, pick, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. He just had a monster year for them. Giving Davidson some love here. Taven Mims at cornerback. Really, really strong corner there for Davidson. That was very productive for them this year. And then closing it out, Edric Williams and Carmelo Taylor for Daphne and Baker. Again, really strong, productive corners for 2 of the better defenses in 7A. It was going to be hard not to make this all MGM, Fairhope, Daphne, and Baker. Those teams were just at a different level than the bottom 4.
If you wouldn't have had EJ Williams on here from Daphne, I would have been like, Robert.
Yeah.
What were you on? That's a really good pick.
Yeah,
really good pick.
He had to be on there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then just kind of moving over to our special teams and athletes page. Grant Thompson at kicker for the Pirates. Cason Lawrence at punter for Baker. They were kind of the no-brainer choices down here in 7A for me, at least. Giving the Pirates kind of offense a little bit of love here. Brian Martin for Fairhope. We got him here at the punt return position. He could have been at the kick return position. He could have been at the wide receiver position. Kind of one of those do-it-all guys for the Pirates this season. And then giving Foley a little love here, Jackson Dixon. Over 1,100 all-purpose yards this year. 5 touchdowns, I believe, on the season. But an electric athlete when you watch him play. This is a guy that on tape, he is just really, really fun to watch. And they get him the ball every way they can. So wanted to give him some love here at kick returner. And then closing it out, two MGM guys I could not leave off this team. Shondell Harris and Jakenyon Allen, 2 guys that Jakenyon Allen was just explosive all year, and Shondell Harris was kind of the leader of that MGM team, as a whole. Playing both sides of the ball, really strong safety, who could also slot in there on offense. So
that's a name I was definitely looking for, is Shondell Harris, because we know that he played a little bit of quarterback for MGM and kind of had to get away from his home position of playing on the defensive side of the ball. And he ended up winning MVP for the when they had the North-South All-Star game. He played in that game and got MVP for the South team. Just a really great kid. He will play wherever you stick him, but obviously, I talked to him and I was like, you're happy being back on. He was like, 100%. Being on defense is where I belong. It's where I'm supposed to be. So just really, really happy for him and to see him on this team. That's definitely a name that I was looking out for.
Oh, yeah. He was going to be impossible to leave off this, for all the reasons you just said. Leader, talented, great kid. So
all the above? Checks all the boxes.
Checks all the boxes. That's
100%.
Right.
So, shout out to our 7A all-region offense, defense, and special teams. Robert, so far so good.
We're zipping through it here.
This is a great list. I'm very, very impressed. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on over. I'm not getting too ahead of myself, am I?
No, let's go.
Let's move on over to our 6A all-region offense. Y'all are going to recognize a lot of names on this list, a lot of heavy hitter guys that put up a lot of points for their teams in 6A. So, Robert, go ahead and kick it off. Big name right here, quarterback out of Saraland.
Yeah, there was only going to be one pick here, and that was Jamison Roberts at quarterback.
I don't know how you kind of go anywhere else with this one.
No, I mean he was the pick. Again, another region with a lot of talented quarterbacks. This was a region that I considered putting a quarterback at the athlete position. Just for note, this comes into play more in our next region, but I tried to keep quarterbacks out of the athlete spot unless they were true dual threat quarterbacks. So we'll talk about that more in our next region because there was a huge quarterback debate for 5A.
Oh, yeah.
That I went back and forth on quite a bit.
Oh, I would think so. That's a tough one.
Yeah, but anyway, here in 6A, lot of names that, like you said, you'll know. Kendrick Abel at running back with Jamison Roberts at quarterback, Juju Bonner for Spanish Fort, and then PJ Brown for Saraland at running back.
I'm pretty sure the first three were they've been player of the week. For us. So like just very, very, very talented kids. The first three names I'm seeing, I'm like, oh yep, he'll be at the banquet, he'll be at the banquet, he'll be at the banquet.
and there were guys that, there were different running backs I had slotted in there. A lot of talented running backs here in 6A. And I managed to squeeze a couple of them in at the athlete spot. So definitely did not forget about some of the guys here in this region. For the pass catcher section, I went with Carter Davis at receiver and Nick Hampton at tight end, both from Gulf Shores.
Good choices.
Two super talented guys, both going to be playing at the next level and very productive for that Gulf Shores team. And then, of course, Deshaun Spencer for Saraland.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, there was no...
I'm a huge fan. I really am. Deshaun Spencer just lit it up this season. I think it was really interesting to see him flip his commitment from Duke to Auburn, which is going to be funny because you're going to have Ryan Williams playing wide receiver at Alabama, him going up against another former Spartan, going to be playing for Auburn. So it's going to be interesting to see, because they're very similar in a lot of ways, I think, with the way they play. And I think that's something that's going to be interesting. We might have a little bit of a rivalry going. Like, you might be from the same high school, but it's to the next level now. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see what Deshaun Spencer does at the next level.
Yeah, for sure. I'm totally with you on that. And then rounding out our pass catchers, Jack Linehan for McGill-Tulane. This was this was me trying to represent kind of the McGill team as a whole because, the McGill was a playoff team this year, but the way they did it, it was a true collective effort across the board, offense and defense. And
there wasn't just one guy that was
and
jumping off the page.
Jack here was their top receiver. Their top running back will show up here in a minute at the athlete position. So this was me kind of giving McGill sort of a nod as like one of the 4 playoff teams in a very tough region. Like here's a spot. And then on the offensive line, we got 2 Theodore guys here, Jaden McCarroll and Caden Lawler. They're going to be college guys, 2 super talented offensive linemen. Luke England for Baldwin County here, the 6'9", 315-pound offensive lineman.
I saw him during the preseason practices and stuff, went out there and stood next to him. And in case y'all didn't know, I am 5'2" on a good day.
Right.
And wasn't wearing heels this day. And standing next to him is like standing next to, to me, it's like looking up at a tall building, like a skyscraper. Right. So huge guy. Very happy to see him make this list.
Yeah, he was one of the first kind of like pencil him in immediately kind of guys.
Yeah.
Ty Williams for Spanish Fort. This was a team that ran the ball quite a bit, and I think this is probably their most talented offensive lineman, so I wanted to kind of give that nod to them. And then Tristan Harden Roberts for Blunt. This was a guy, I flip-flopped this 5th spot quite a few times, but I ultimately landed on Tristan Harden Roberts. This is a kid that's going to play at the college level. Massive kid. I believe he is. Let me pull him up here real quick. I think he's like 6'5", 315 maybe.
Jeez, what are they feeding these kids?
I know.
That's what I want to know. Like, how do you end up to be a 6'5" or 6'9" for that matter? Like, what?
Yeah.
What do their parents look like?
6'6", 281. So huge
Lord have
kid. I
mercy.
mean, so I wanted to kind of give Blunt a little love here, and he is more than worthy of being on this list.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Moving over to the defensive side, this one was difficult because there are a ton of defensive guys here in 6A Region 1.
Yeah, I would not want to have to be you making this decision.
Yeah, but anyway, I ultimately landed on Blair Evans here for Saraland. He was kind of one of their more disruptive kind of front seven guys for a very talented and deep Saraland defense. And so I wanted to give the Spartans defense some love here with this pick. Davon Young for Theodore, who I believe is committed to Mississippi State, kind of one of the Division I guys here in this region. Again, another Theodore prospect. Gabe Irvin for Gulf Shores. He was one of their top tacklers on the year, top defenders as a whole. Wanted to get him on here. And then Sam Wilder. This was kind of one of Saraland's premier Spanish Fort's premier pass rushers. They always seem to have two guys. This year was Sam Wilder and Brandon Marino. I went with Sam Wilder here at the pass rusher spot. At linebacker, Landon Everett, one of the top tacklers in 6A. We all know
fun to watch.
Yeah, I always know.
I mean, Mark
who he is.
Hudsmith is really, really big on Landon Everett,
Yeah.
so no shock to see him on this list whatsoever.
No, and this is a very talented group of linebackers here because you got J.J. Bush and Tank Jones as well. We know those names. I mean, we know who those guys are.
Yeah, I mean, they also those are two guys that obviously they're going to move on and play at the next level on defense, but they also were very productive for offense for their teams this season. They're both just those kind of Swiss Army knife, do it all guys, jack of all trades. You can stick them anywhere and they can get it done. They're going to make big plays on defense, but they're also, I mean, a lot of them were scoring touchdowns on offense all season long. So two guys that are very much deserving to be on this list.
No doubt. And then rounding out the linebackers again, went back with the Saraland guy here, Aiden Pugh. He's been a really productive linebacker for them the last couple seasons, and wanted to give him some love here. Moving to the secondary, Justin Vines for Saraland, or for Spanish Fort. I keep calling Spanish Fort Saraland.
It's because the logos, like the way that the red is on here, it's their reds are very similar. Theodore's is a little darker, but Spanish Fort and Saraland, their reds are a little close.
I know.
Don't tell them that though; they might not love that
I know,
one.
yeah. But anyway, Justin Vines for Spanish Fort. He's one of the more talented cornerbacks in this area. He was kind of a no-brainer pick here for me. Lamarion Miller for McGill. He also has been one of the more productive cornerbacks in our area for the last couple seasons. I believe he was All-State last year, and so this was a guy who kind of no doubt put him in here. Elijah Malone for Gulf Shores. This was a kid who I don't remember a ton about last year, but really came on the scene this year.
Really, yeah, absolutely.
He's got, I mean, his numbers this season, 34 tackles, 5 interceptions, 15 pass breakups, almost 450 yards of special teams, kick or punt return, and then over 100 yards of offense. Just kind of a do-it-all guy for them. Really strong season from Elijah Malone.
Some more Blunt love down here.
And then Chris Leatherwood, he's been a guy that's been very productive for Blunt the last couple years. He's got college offers, I believe, to North Alabama maybe. I could be wrong on that, but he's a guy that's going to play at the next level, and I wanted to give Blunt a little more love. Because Blunt was frisky this year. I mean, they beat St. Paul's.
They beat St. Paul's in a turn of events that I don't think anybody saw coming.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, you can never count Blunt out. They're always going to find a way to surprise you.
That's right. And then moving over to special teams here, Zachary Meggie, I may be pronouncing that wrong. Kicker for Spanish Fort. He was one of the top in 6A in terms of kick scoring. And Taylor Barkley for Gulf Shores, one of the top punters in 6A. Those two guys were kind of easy picks for me there. And then 2 Spanish Fort guys here on the special teams kind of category. Traylon Thomas, who also plays cornerback for them, opposite of Justin Vines. He's also very talented. Got him slotted in here at kick returner. And then Damian Tate, one of the more kind of explosive athletes, played receiver for Spanish Fort, but was really, really dangerous in the kick and punt return game as well. So this was a good spot for me to kind of get him on here. And then our 2 kind of wild card athlete spots, I went with 2 of the running backs that I mentioned from the top, Ladarian Miller for McGill and Anthony Frazier for St. Paul's. These were guys, I had Ladarian Miller in the running back spot at one point. I had Anthony Frazier in the running back spot at one point. These were guys that were shuffling in and out with our 3 running back picks. So to me, just to kind of make it simple, I was just like, you know what? They're going in the 2 athlete spots. So
Good choices.
yeah, I'm pretty much happy with all that.
Okay, so I see who you went with for quarterback for 5A All-Region offense.
Yeah, so 5A, this one was interesting because it was really hard not to make this an entire Williamson-Viger team.
Both of them have so much talent. So much talent. And there's a reason that they made it to the 5A semifinals.
And we're both dominant all year.
Absolutely. One of them was number 1 in the state at one point, and one of them was number 2 in the state. Then they flopped, and someone was number 1, someone was number 2, and then Viger goes all the way to the state championship game. It's easy to see why there is a lot of Viger and Williamson representation. They were just 2 of the powerhouse teams in 5A, not just in Region 1, but across the state. So this makes sense to me. I get it.
Yeah, and just a quick sort of behind the scenes here. Williamson on our long list had 17 players total, and Viger had 13. But Williamson was 17. That's one of the highest. I believe the only team that had more were Bayside and Cottage Hill. So
interesting.
Williamson right there, as far as like the most players on sort of the long list.
Okay.
But as you mentioned at quarterback, I ultimately went with Sammy Dunn over Alvin Dinkins.
I think you made a good choice.
I had Alvin Dinkins in there, honestly, up until the state semifinal game.
Yep.
And after that, I kind of flipped him, and because Dinkins is not really a dual threat quarterback,
yep.
He did not make the athlete spot like you'll see in some regions coming up.
Okay.
So Alvin Dinkins is technically on the honorable mention list.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's too easy to just plop quarterbacks in the athlete spot unless they are true rushing and passing guys.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get that. And I stand behind the choice to make Sammy the QB of the 5A All-Region offense. Extremely talented kid.
Yeah.
We've seen it from the time he was at Bayside till he transferred back to, came back to Viger. He very talented kid. I'm not shocked by this pick. I think you made the right choice.
And if I went with Alvin here, I could have made the argument for Sammy Dunn at an athlete spot.
Oh yeah.
But because I ultimately went with Sammy here, it kind of made it tough to put Alvin in the athlete spot. So, yeah, but Williamson gets plenty of love on this team. So, I know
17 players.
Yeah. I mean,
17 players.
Yeah.
That's highly represented here.
Yes. And so, speaking of Williamson, our running backs here, Todrick Withers, just a monster season from him rushing the ball. Demetrius Johnson for Viger, their kind of top rusher, outstanding season, And then Jermani Rogers for BC Rain, which I don't know if many people kind of would have had on their list, but really strong year from him. He was one that I'd heard about early on in the year, and ultimately looked at his stats, had over 1,300 rushing yards on the season. So really strong year there for Jermani Rogers. His family's reached out to us before about him being a player of the week guy. So this was a good spot for me to kind of show him some love. And then we're right back to Viger Williamson here at receiver tight end. It's Dylan Jackson, John Austin, Garrett Holcomb, and Robert Lucas at tight end.
And Dylan's one of those guys that stepped up and played quarterback whenever Sammy was hurt.
That's
so
right.
like Dylan is kind of a do it all guy. I think he fits here perfectly. He had a great season for Viger, but one thing that I remember from the All-Star game is like they did like a trick play with Sammy and Dylan literally ended up throwing a touchdown for the end zone, and they called that play Viger. So I'm happy to see both of those guys make this list. They definitely deserve it.
Yeah. And again, to me, the hardest part about the receiver spot here in 5A was honestly which Williamson guys I was going to pick, because Williamson had about 4 different guys that easily could have been the receiver for that team. Ultimately, I went with John Austin, and Robert Lucas was their tight end. So
good choice. I've seen John play in person, and that kid can make some crazy grabs.
Yeah,
takes big hits in the end zone and still holds on to the ball. I mean, just the discipline. He very, very talented guy. I think that's a good choice here.
And then moving on to the offensive line, Nelson Chestang for Citronelle. He was an All-State guy last year, one of the more talented offensive linemen in our area. I put him on here with his teammate, Aiden Forrester, who is also a very talented offensive lineman, already getting some college looks. And then Braylon Broom for Williamson. He was kind of he was their top offensive lineman, I think. And so to give that offensive line some love, I went with him. Gabe Brown for Viger, also kind of their top offensive lineman. To honor their offensive line, I went with him. And then to give UMS a little love here, Christian Holloway, who has been, I believe this is his second year starting on the offensive line. Probably their most consistent offensive lineman for a team that chaos on grass, run the ball, throw the ball. I mean, their offensive line is super important to that team. So I wanted to get UMS in there on the offensive line. So that is our 5A offense. Let's move on to our 5A defense, which again
Chicken!
is very, very Viger, really Williamson loaded here. But it's hard. It's hard not to.
It really is hard not to. I mean, these are names that y'all are hearing about week in and week out, and for good reason. It's just these are talented players on a talented team, so they're going to get talked about, and they're going to make these all region teams. I mean, that's kind of some of these names. It's really a no brainer. Jabarius Gare on the D line, absolutely one of those. And
again, there's little position stuff here. I mean, Isaac McNeil for Viger, who also makes the defensive line spot here. He was kind of a pass rusher linebacker. I mean, I kind of just sort of said, you know what, that'll just be a defensive line spot. I mean, it's all, to me, it's just about getting on this list, and you could make an argument that he could be an edge guy, a defensive line guy. So, Jabarius Gare, Isaac McNeil, and then DeMarcus Dale Brown and Dante Bush, the 2 big guys up front for that Williamson defense. They caused problems all year for opposing offenses, so they were pretty easy to go with. At linebacker here, Perry Hand for UMS, one of the most productive defenders in this region. He was a super easy pick for me. I had him penciled in early. Ton of interceptions, ton of tackles.
I'm pretty sure that Noah Moss said that Perry Hand was one of the most difficult defenders he's gone against in his time at St. Michael, playing against him at UMS. That's the name I was like waiting to see if he was going to be on here.
And then of course Ellis McGaskin, the Notre Dame commit. No brainer here. He's been one of the best players in the area since he was a freshman.
That's easy money. That's a name we talk about all the time.
Tim Rivers for Citronelle. He was a really good player for them last year. Took another step this year. Had over 100 tackles. One of the more productive linebackers here in 5A Region 1. And then Jamarcus Lett for Williamson, another kid who over 100 tackles, was someone I wasn't super familiar with coming into the season. But, 112 tackles, 20 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. He had 8 rushing touchdowns. He had a defensive touchdown. The dude did a lot for a very talented Williamson team. And And then moving to the secondary, Jermaine McCree and Jalen Scott. Jalen Scott, one of the best players in his class. And then Jermaine McCree, one of the starting corners for this Williamson team for the last 2 years. They were both very easy picks. Miguel Wilson for Viger, a kid who just got reoffered by the Kentucky Wildcats.
Which I know
think
you
yesterday.
love.
Yeah, okay, Miguel, come on down.
They need him.
Yeah, we need you. We need you. Listen, we'll take good care of you up there.
You would make Robert's day because I don't even know if Kentucky's a basketball school anymore.
Hey.
I'll let that dead dog lie.
Yeah.
I'll let it lie.
Miguel, his nickname is Seatbelt, which I like. Miguel Seatbelt Wilson.
I love that.
That's a good name.
That is very good. Is that on his Twitter?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And then Kobe Weaver here for Citronelle. He is super talented.
This is a guy that you've been big on all season
Yeah.
long. Like, I've heard you say his name multiple times.
Yeah.
Also, another no-brainer to go on this list.
Plays both sides of the ball. Really good corner. Yeah, he was an easy pick. And then moving on to our special teams and athletes page. Got LaFleur some love here. Jacorian Gibson at punter and Rashad Miles as a kick returner. He had over, I believe, let me pull him up here real quick.
Once we get to the end of this list, I want to, there's someone on here that I would have expected to see that I don't see.
Okay.
So I'm just curious.
Rashad Miles, he also played corner for LaFleur. He had over 300 kick and punt return yards, but this was a good spot for me to kind of slide him in. At kicker, Kingston Pham. He's been one of the top kickers kind of in our area for the last couple seasons. This was a no-brainer pick for me. David Lott at punt returner. He was kind of a do-it-all guy for UMS, and this was a good spot for me to get him in at. And then at the athlete spot, I went with Richard Scott for UMS, who on the season, this kid put up some really, really good numbers here for UMS. 466 rushing yards, 543 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards of production. Not a very hard pick for me. He was one that I was kind of eyeing pretty early. And then Camarcus Howard for Citronelle, almost 600 rushing yards, had almost 400 passing yards, 9 total touchdowns. He was kind of the do-it-all guy for them when they were kind of having quarterback problems throughout this season. So, yeah, he made complete sense for me at the athlete spot. So that is your 5A picks. Now, who did you think would be on here?
He's probably an honorable mention, though, so, I don't want to – are we going to get there?
Next week.
Okay, we'll do that next week. Kaplan Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my heart's not broken. Okay, there's still a chance.
Oh, no, I mean, he's definitely an honorable mention.
I don't know. He was one of the names that I was looking, waiting and waiting.
Well, it's just hard, I mean, when you got Ellis McGaskin and Jamarcus Led and Perry Hand and, I mean, Tim Rivers, I mean, he was a very productive linebacker for Citronelle this year,
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that they're all great choices. That was one name
he was one that was tough.
You were going back and forth on?
Yeah, he was one that was tough, for sure.
I could understand that 100%. Yeah.
So, that is 5A through 7A and our all freshman picks. What do we think?
I think that you did an incredible job. I think that it's just fun to hear you geek out on it because all of your all your hard work has come to fruition, and I know how much you care about it. And the thing is that people don't get to see is Robert is more of a behind the scenes guy. So we're the ones that are on site doing Big Friday Kickoff, Player of the Week, shooting highlights, doing these things. But Robert is watching you guys from right here in the station.
Sorry.
He is. He's locked in, y'all, I promise.
No, I am. Yeah.
He's the one that's here at the station, combing over stats, watching highlights. He puts so much work into all of our high school football coverage. And so this is his baby. This is something that he's worked extremely hard on. And as much as I talk about how much I care about you guys, I know Robert does too. So I'm happy that this is a project that you've put so much work into, and you finally get to let the people see it. And I hope that they are as proud of it as I am with the finished product. And we still got a lot to cover next week too.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we got 4 other teams, and those teams got extremely interesting in terms of, players and spots and picks and whatnot. But, this is all about just trying to give as many players some recognition, some love. So, don't be at me about who I left off or who I got wrong or whatever. This is about giving players recognition, all right? That's what we have an honorable list for, I know who everyone else picked this offseason, this award season for teams and things like that. And there were some spots where I wanted to go a little differently to give someone some love that didn't necessarily get it on some of the other teams and some of the other awards that have been handed out this postseason. So ours is a little different than most people's, but it's ultimately these are all still very talented young athletes who we're just trying to give some attention to. So
yeah. And they deserve it. I mean, they put in all this work during the off season, during the regular season, through the playoffs. I mean, it's kind of like taking a walk down memory lane, getting to sit here and talk about some of these guys. Some of them that are seniors and that this is their last season. We got to see them play down here in Region 1. So this has been super fun to get to hear you laid out, talk about it, your process and how you do it. It's complicated and it is not easy. So tell them about so everything that you're going to have up on the website for them to see and have access to it.
Yeah, the podcast will be attached to an article that's got all of our team graphics on it. I'll make sure all those get posted to social media as well. I may need you to handle the Twitter part of it. I'll handle
that. I can do
handle the Facebook part of it. All these teams will be up there, be attached to the podcast, and the next week we'll have 1A through 4A. So you'll be able to find this. We'll make it pretty easy to find. So,
good deal. Yeah. Good deal. Well, before we get out of here, I really do want to thank all of the coaches that make this information easily accessible for us and for all of us that work in this media world. Having access to these stats and these things makes it so much easier for us to get to highlight these kids and in our storytelling and the way we do things. Like the most accurate information is so important. So all you coaches that I've bugged and that have gotten back with me through email and text and whatnot, I really appreciate y'all helping us get everything we needed so that way we could get these region teams together. Yeah. So, Robert, this is just the first half. A lot more still in store. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like he said, this will be up on our website, fox10tv.com. Congratulations to all our 5A through 7A and our all freshman teams. A lot more names to look forward to next week here on the Big Friday Kickoff Podcast. I'm Emily Cochran. He's Robert Restagno. We will see y'all next week.